Welcome back to America's Commercial Real Estate Show. I'm Michael Ball. This segment is brought to you by Apto.com. They have a great CRM system for commercial real estate brokers. Well, today we're talking about student housing. Please welcome my next guest. This is Ned Williams, and Ned is Senior VP with University Student Living, and he's joining us on the phone today. Ned, thanks for being with us.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me.
Well, Ned, the first thing I'd like to ask you, I mean, you guys do student housing. You've done it a long time, and you do it on campus with universities, and then you also do outside campus. So how much student housing is really developed by the universities or in partnership with the universities, and how much is it done private outside the university?
Today, it's changing. I mean, traditionally, sort of the heyday of student housing building was in the 60s and 70s, and that's where most of the stock is today, age-wise. So universities are up against, do we renovate or do we demolish and build new? And as they're making those decisions, those have huge balance sheet implications for them. So they're starting to, instead of just going and building it themselves, which, a while ago it would have been, close to 90% would be they were doing it themselves. Today it's shifting way over to them trying to do public-private partnerships on their land. So I'd say 50 or 60% now is being done privately.
I see. And then you also have the off-campus development, right, that really has nothing to do with the university.
Correct, and that's just, like any other multifamily developer, we're building we're trying to find a piece of land that is either abutting the university as close to the academic core as possible or within about a mile radius. And we're building, they look and feel a lot like a multifamily building, but they're geared towards students and have some student-specific amenities. And the way that we lease them, it's more by the bedroom rather than by the door like you would a traditional multifamily unit.
Right. And we have listeners and viewers to our show that are in all types of commercial real estate and investment. And so what would you say to them, Ned, if they said, Ned, why do you want to be in a business where you're dealing with students? Why do you put yourself through that?
Because there's a need, and as I said, the housing stock in most universities is deteriorated. They have huge deferred maintenance issues, and they have to do something. And in places like California, where we just were awarded a 5,200 bed project with UC Davis on campus, there's the development in some of these college towns. The citizens just don't want more student housing, and it's hard to do. So there's a huge need, and so we're trying to find creative ways to fill those needs, especially in big urban areas.
And what do you think about enrollment? It seems like we've had a good surge in enrollment when the economy was kind of in the tank. Now most everyone can find a job easily. What do you expect for future enrollment numbers?
They won't be what they were, and you're right there. However, they're still growing, and you're seeing growth in strange places. It's in graduate programs a lot too, master's and PhD level programs, and we're also that from a student housing need is something that's been greatly underserved, along with married student housing. It's always been a lot of undergraduate housing, so we're building for those populations as well as for medical schools and some of those people that just you wouldn't normally think of when you think of student housing.
Right. In the university, I guess they're still focused more on the undergraduate?
They are, although they're getting, as they grow their graduate programs or they decide to add a graduate program, they are realizing that if we do it, if we want to attract that a master's level person or a PhD program person, especially who's there for so long, we have to have housing for them. And the graduate programs are, that's what we're starting to see a lot included in RFPs and some faculty staff, but the graduate programs is a huge segment of what we're seeing.
I see. And what might surprise people, what's new, maybe people that aren't in student housing, what might surprise them about the industry or about the new projects that you guys are building today?
They don't look anything like, certainly like I'm 48 years old. There's nothing like what I saw at Emory University when I was there as a freshman. I mean, they are totally different, and you have to design a different product. That they won't live in it unless it's of a certain level. And what's changed is Off campus, especially, the heavily amenitized stuff is not there anymore. We're not building lazy rivers and tanning beds, but they're still very nice, and they're just different, especially in the freshman product, than what you've seen in the past.
So what amenities are new? What's it take today?
Well, you'll see the bed bath parity. You got to have, people will share, like 2 people will share 1 bedroom, but you're not putting 1 bathroom for 4 people to share. That sort of stuff. I mean, you don't have the gang bathrooms, for example, in that you would see in the old stuff that was built like in the 70s. There's more. We call them wet cores, where there's a door. You'll go in and you would see like 4 sinks, but on one side there's 4 full floor-to-ceiling hardcore doors, and there's a restroom behind there, and on the other side you see the same doors and there's a shower. So it doesn't matter. They're sort of gender neutral, and so you have privacy, but there's still the efficiency of building it that way. And there's a lot more study spaces and multi-purpose rooms where some people want to have living learning communities of the university's interested in teaching at least one of the classes in the building where some of those specific students live. Things like that. They're designed specifically with student needs in mind.
Okay. And I want to ask you about valuations, Ned. It seems like students may be a little more difficult to work with than regular apartments. Do you see any correlation in values, if maybe we think about it in terms of cap rates, between regular apartments of a similar age and class and with student housing properties, or student housing properties maybe a little bit more higher cap rate, or what do you see?
Yeah, it's not it depends on the market, but I would think that's a fair assessment. Cap rates are going to be a little bit higher just due to you're leasing by semesters usually. Off campus, we try to do 12-month leases, but you have to be able to offer semester leases, so you can have gaps in revenue sometimes, so you try to make it up in that 9-month period. But so it's a little shakier. So cap rates, I would say, creep a little higher. But having said that, in some markets, they're almost on the same parity because they're occupied all the time and there's so much demand for them.
I see. And what are you guys doing, Ned, for cap rate projections? If you were asked by investors or someone to say, hey, we're building this project, we're going to have it stabilized in 2 years, what would you do an exit cap rate if you were doing one 2 years from now? I know you don't have a crystal ball, but you can borrow mine.
You want like specific numbers? I wouldn't know what to tell you. We're probably looking now at, we're going to, in a couple of years, we think cap rates are going to be higher, and we're building that in. We're looking at a lot more. To be honest with you, we think we're getting close to the end of the on-campus is sort of an insulated development market because of, when you're doing it on campus in the P3 model where they own the land and they're ground leasing you, ground leasing you and either an LLC that you own or a 501c3 owns the building. That's sort of an insulated thing. Off campus, it's getting tougher and tougher to find good pieces of dirt, and with construction prices doing what they're doing, we're actually more in an acquisition mode than we are in a development mode. So we're looking at long-term holds versus what we're projecting exit cap in a few years. Okay.
And what would you say to operators, Ned, for a tip? It seems like it's a great field, but you do need a little bit of expertise, I guess, to deal with this kind of project. What kind of tip could you give to our listeners?
Well, if they want to do one, I would highly recommend talking to. I wouldn't try to, especially if you want to do one of any size. I wouldn't do it I wouldn't try to manage it yourself. Even if you're a multifamily owner operator, it's a different world. Students have different needs. You need somebody who understands how to manage those types of properties. And we partner with a lot of investors and a lot of other multifamily developers who are just like, that's not our world, but we have a great piece of land or whatever, and do it jointly. But I would just recommend working with don't try to manage it yourself. Manage it with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, that's good advice. What would you leave our audience with, Ned, as far as a tip maybe for the future of student housing?
As you look at, there's going to be a lot of, they're going to be presented with a lot of opportunities. There's going to be a lot of guys wanting money to do these things, a lot of, of the various services that your listeners often. The best way to gauge an off-campus student housing project is it's always location, but proximity to not just the campus, but to the core of campus. It's hard to screw up if you're right across the street from the campus. I mean, so if somebody's showing you something that's 5 miles away, there better be an awfully good story there. But the same economics that will go into any other multifamily project apply, but our location thing is not traffic counts, and it's not being at the good intersection. It's relative proximity to campus. The closer you are, the better.
Right. They want to be able to walk or ride a bike or do something to get to campus quickly, right?
They want to make it feel as much like it's on campus, and that's something we've been doing too. You know, we've been buying properties that were across the campus and then donating the land to the school and turning it into a P3. I mean, there's things like that you can do, but the school won't be interested if it's a long way away. But if it's contiguous with their campus, they're all over that.
Yeah, right, great. Well, great tips, Ned. Thanks for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
And thank you for listening around the country or around the world. Thanks for sharing. And let us know your comments on the show. You can comment on your favorite social media. And thanks for being with us until next week. Be sure that you always lead, learn, and laugh. And join us for America's Commercial Real Estate Show.